Scano, Ani, hello. It's Hi, nice to see you. We're coming from Grandmother's Voice, our platform, Healing Reconciliation with Eleanor Haywood and White Spotted Horse, Alan Sutherland. Uh, it's a beautiful day where I'm coming from today is the Three Fires Confederacy, and we're really excited to have these conversations and really share what we know, what knowledge we have, and conversations, just to really keep everyone connected and moving forward with reconciliation. And today our conversation is around what comes up with the feelings and the energies, and how do we really move forward with healing reconciliation. I'm Jody Harbour. I am a co-founder of Grandmother's Voice, and it's an honor to be here in these conversations, and has been an honor to build relationships through this platform, and just really saying yes. Just saying yes when people say, let's have a conversation. What does that look like? Instead of being afraid of those conversations and what can come up, we're just saying yes. And that's how I look at healing. So my great grandmother was of the Cayuga Nation, Six Nations of the Grand River Territory. I'm a mom. I'm a wife, sister, auntie, friend, granddaughter, daughter. And it's always a pleasure to be here and share and just share this space and time. And great to see you, Eleanor. I love you. Thanks for being here with me and being here to host and have a great conversation with Alan and the people who have been following us on just the conversations in the different spaces. So welcome and introduce yourself, and we'll get into this conversation today. Yeah.
Thank you, Jody. Very grateful. I consider myself I'm a holistic facilitator, professionally speaking. Background as a registered massage therapist, body worker, but I've also recently tied in the mental, emotional, spiritual components of wellness and healing. So I love these healing conversations. I wanted to contribute to truth and reconciliation across Canada after learning about residential schools in 2013 and realizing that the last one closed its doors in Brantford, I believe, in 1996. So this is recent history and the effects of intergenerational trauma across Canada, and how I think little the average person actually knows. We talk about truth and reconciliation, but even just telling the truth, I think, is still part of the challenge. And what does reconciliation really mean? And I have committed to this path of being part of my identity being as a settler descendant. Part of my family has been in Ontario or in Canada for 8 generations. So wanting to reconcile, how do we come together? Because I see that the colonial mindset, the colonial practices, the colonial policies and institutions are not very equitable, not very considerate of nature, not very generous. It's very much based in scarcity and lack and power over. And I think that is just a recipe for global collapse, which is kind of where, on some levels, we are headed. And yet at the same time, as a healer, recognizing the power of our hearts. And how can we come together? How can we work together? How can we respect each other, respect the dignity and just the inherent value of life on Earth, rather than just beyond as a commodity. And the Indigenous philosophy has trickled down to me over the years, and I understand that Indigenous people are not a monolith. Different people have different perspectives, there's different cultures within Indigenous heritage, and yet at the same time, what is in common is that respect for nature. And I think that's where we need to circle back to. How do we care for everybody, including our elements and our plants and animal neighbors, our family. So with reverence. I'm here and I'm grateful for this healing conversation and this introduction, Jody. to Alan, and would love to hear from him and why he's here. Thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting me once again, Jody, and joining us, Eleanor. I appreciate your company, especially the time that you gave me bodywork healing. That's what I needed at the time. When I look back on things, I really needed it at the time. Now, I noticed we usually go on script, but there was a precursor in terms of maybe we'll talk about energy or dark energy or black energy, and that is timely because, as you both know, I recently had to deal with a family issue when it came to that kind of energy. But I guess the term we would use today is a psychic attack, using energy to want to hurt somebody else. In this case here, it was aimed at me. I have since learned all the details. I have a lot of good allies. I got good friends who are very spiritual, and they just affirm what was going on. Because light workers, when their heart is in a good place with love and compassion and kindness, you are a light worker. You're like a lighthouse and among a storm sometimes in darkness. But that's the only thing you see. So you get a lot of attention, especially when you do good work. And sometimes people have envy, or they're jealous, or they regret that. They even regret feeling that light. They want help, but sometimes they ask for help, but they really, a lot of times they're a no-show. What they're dealing with is heavy, and they just not gonna make that commitment to come through what they want for themselves, and that happens quite a bit. In my customs and my traditions, we ask for an offering of tobacco, a sema, as the means to get past your free will. But it's basically when you handle tobacco and you pass it to a healer or someone to help you, it's used as a means. It says you ask the question, what is that for? Before they even accept it or handle it, you have to, what is your intention here? So they have to explain it. Now a person will say, I can do this for you. I'll accept your tobacco. Or he says, I know somebody, if you want me to find this person for you, I'll take your tobacco. Or the other option is, I can't help you. I won't able to take your tobacco. What is key here is our own free will to say, I'm here for your help. And it's now initiated. And now you go into the process. So thinking back on recent events, I went to travel to Ontario and to go and speak on National Indigenous Day. It was a great experience. Whole new environment, whole new location, and it was fun. So I did my part. There's a lot of beautiful speakers, a lot of great entertainment, and I love the diversity of it, the variety of information that was shared. And from my perspective, it was very much highly successful. And how many people was actually to see it? It was televised. You even had strangers say, I just seen you this morning. Oh, okay. Where? On TV. So that was cool. And then to go to other places, I had a chance to go to a provincial park of a sacred site of glacier waters, but a chance to speak again to the general public, anybody that came to the longhouse or outside by the tree under the shade, was was something that I love doing. It's in my element. I'm a storyteller. And then the following day, I was able to go and visit Six Nations. I was there before. So I was able to meet up with a friend I should have met like 13 years ago, but I was able to do it. And then me and Joey had a good time talking on the way back to the airport. We stopped off to a health and wellness expo. We both found some treasures. So that was nice. That was nice. But what was happening while I was in Ontario, when I left that morning, I have a family member early morning walking on the road. It was unusual. And I just said, "Oh, I'm on my way to the airport. Everything's okay?" "Yeah, everything's okay." So I went. And then by the time I got to Ontario, I heard the news that the same person had to go in the hospital. So immediately, I'm trying to get all the answers, as best I can. But I was in a vulnerable state because usually when I travel on the road, I have my medicine bundle, my medicines, my pipe. But this trip wasn't about that. I wasn't thinking about what I usually carry with me. Essentially, is my tools, my protection. And here I'm in another province, and I definitely started feeling vulnerable. And that's a teaching in itself, because it reminds me of these other teachings about being too attached to your bundle. Like, these are all natural. Your pipe is natural, your shaker, your drum, your medicines. These are all replaceable. But I became too attached to them as a tool that I use all the time. So looking back at it now, is the power of prayer, the power of working with the universe, with the creator, the universe, the power of working with your own guides is all that you need. But I was just had my vulnerable moment. When I look back, I was just reinforced to the teachings that I have. That it's not the tools that make you the healer. It's grace. It's part of everything, part of the source of everything. And all you have to do is to remember that. So I wanted to go into the general theme about what is bad medicine. And the thing is, I'll start off there because in my community, there's this fear-based concept of bad medicine. I heard about it growing up. It still goes on in some communities. There's some people who still are driven by fear, and they say it's bad medicine. Now, I have learned along the way in my path to go and talk to all kinds of medicine people, all kinds of people that work with medicines. And you know what the conclusion was, and I knew this as an instinct, that there is no such thing as bad medicine. It's just that there are people who are doing bad things. Maybe be actual medicines, but you can't blame that medicine that is being used by a person who wants to have bad intentions against somebody else. You'll never blame the gun or the knife for committing the murder. It's the human being that did that, not the tool. So since then, as a light worker or somebody who does healing ways, that everything is energy. Everything was created from love, and that is the source of everything. So all of everything that we have, everything is love. That is the truth.
Is he frozen for you, Eleanor? Oh, there he is.
That was just me. I just got frozen there for a bit.
Ooh,
But I know.
That was a big message.
Well, because I'm getting deeper.
Yeah, right?
I'm actually giving you our traditional source of everything. So, if everything is love, but if you manifest, you can change energy, you can reform it. You cannot destroy it. It can't. Just like this body is energy. I just celebrated 60th year, so it's just a number, but I had a hard time with that number. But anyway, it's the energy of my body that changed ever since I was a baby. As I get older, that is a form of my vehicle. That is energy. So everything you see around us is energy. So when somebody goes and do good intentions, healing, they're compassionate, they're kind, and so forth, that's energy, and you can feel the positiveness of it because it's good. It feels good. Now, if you were to say, that energy, maybe the opposite, maybe you not feeling good, not having a good day, you say things like, oh, it always happens to me. Well, that's what you're going to attract. You're forming an energy that is not as fluid as a good, loving energy, but is still created. You can always change it when something all of a sudden happens. It becomes from heavy to light, and it becomes a good energy. See how that changes? It's the same way I teach people how it's our interpretation of everything. So somebody says that in the room, the room is so cold. The air is hot. Why is it so cold? Where somebody says, oh, it's just right. Or somebody says, it's the gauge of the same energy. When you change the thermostat, it's going to change to a different temperature. But again, it's the person that are connected. Is it cold? Is it too cold? Is it warm? Is it just right? It's the same thing with love. Love and hate. People like to say, oh, it's one gauge or another. Actually, no, it's the same energy. So you can go and spend your first 2 years in that beautiful bliss, the honeymoon stage, they call it, a relationship, a new relationship. Oh, it feels so good. I'm actually going to be seeing somebody who reached the 2-year mark. They're having problems. How do you love so much in the extreme, and then one day you just hate them, can't tolerate them? Nothing changed. The same energy just moved. So the same thing with good and bad energy. Good intentions, bad intentions. So that's the thing that I had to remind myself in the last, since I came back home. I had to go and deal with it. And I felt better being at home because I have my protection surrounding my property, my lodge, my house itself. You go past the driveway, it just protects anybody with bad intentions. They're not going to feel comfortable. So they're going to back off. So it's protected that way. I also have spirit guides that protects my property. So when I came home, I felt good. I felt in a place that I know what I can do. So I came back. Immediately I got my medicine bundles. I got my pipe. I got all kinds of tools that I can use. But I also have my allies and friends that are. They said they want to pray. They say they're going to send prayers. They're going to do things themselves. We've got ceremonies. So really all the things that we all know was being put into place. And what happened here, if the intention was to do something to me because of envy and jealousy, and that came off of Facebook, by the way. And it's somebody that I personally don't know personally, but it went out there. And I'm related to these other elders that were kind of targeted. So I'm part of a group. But anyway, they couldn't penetrate whatever they want to do because of the good light, the good energy. It's protection. The strongest energy is love. But if I was in a vulnerable state and I was angry or I wanted revenge, I can't wait to find this person. I'm gonna, eye for an eye does not do anything here. Makes everybody go blind, as one quote. And I learned a long time ago from my dad that told me about, he had a friend that went and see a medicine man, and he felt he's being attacked. And he says, well, you know what? It's very simple. You just follow my direction. You know where he lives, right? He said, yeah. I want you to go to his place. I want you to knock on the door. And when he opens the door, I want you to point a finger right at him. Look him in the eye. Don't say nothing. Don't even have hate. Don't be angry. Send love. But look him in the eye and then turn around right away. Walk back. Don't look back. And that'll be done. So when my dad told me that, I had to start thinking, how do you disarm somebody that has his bad intentions against you? Well, he's basically saying, don't react the way they want you to react. You're just letting them know that you know. You're just probably letting them know that you're sending them healing light, or that you forgive them, that you're not angry about it, or you don't want revenge. And that's how you disarm that whatever the intention was with that energy that they had. You disarm them. You flood them with white light. It just goes away. It becomes ashes. It just blows away in the wind. And that's it. You don't have to worry about it anymore. You don't have to go with fear anymore. And that's the problem with superstition. If you have that fear and you try to match it up by saying, go over there, disarm them and all that stuff, and all right. So from that story and hearing how medicine people would even attack somebody, his energy. Mm-hmm. And along the way, as light workers, we know that we're in a protection shield of a white light. We're in a protection shield of love. Because we come from our heart, we come from our compassion, our loving compassion, kindness, and so forth. That's how we feel. That's how we generate our light. So I remind me of this because this is timely. Because when I came back, there was 2 other people who are dealing with this almost like the same situation, and they don't know what to do. One person has even gone to a medicine man, and I'm just worried that they'll just say, "Oh, we'll disarm them," or whatever. They're going to be more aggressive on it. I'm just a little bit worried because it's you dismantle it with love and forgiveness and kindness. Like, no, it's you and the Creator sort of thing. And that's the other teaching about energy. When we came to this earth, and that's part of the origin stories that I shared with you before, that you create the world that you want. You create the life that you want. And we are co-creators, like we are creators. Creator on his second blast sent out all the souls, all the spirits everywhere. Different planets, different dimensions. And the ones he sent was a special place called Gaia or Earth, but we say Aki. And she is living. She has a soul contract too, like anybody else. She had to go and do a cleansing about 4 other times. I think this is our 5th age, by the way. So she's very special. But this is where you can experience everything that the Creator wanted. He says, reason why I made this special place, because it's an emotional experience, a human experience with the Creator inside us. So when we do start exercising our free will, we don't have it right away. We get it in a transition from being a child to an adult. We have ceremonies for those things. In the meantime, you are being programmed by your family, your community, society, the world. That says this is the way it is. So yeah, okay, that's the first programs. But later on, you want to challenge them, or you just accept it 100%. That's a choice. So with your free will, you start experiencing life, and life is good. All the great things in life is beautiful. This is a great place. But we're dealing with a lot of free will here. We're dealing with not only your own family members, your neighbors, your community, society, what goes wrong on the rest of the world. Just imagine everybody has free will. So you have these teachings and ceremonies and morals and value systems that help us get along with each other. But if you don't want to try, it's chaos. I got another story about that chaos. With the 7 grandfather teachings, this is how we get along with each other. So what you put out is what you receive. So if you want to create a harmony within your family, you're going to put out all that loving energy with your family, your community, society, the world. And as I was sharing about programs or creators, we wanted challenges. We didn't want it so good, like the movie Matrix trying to make it in their first program. They says everything was perfect. It was a flawed program, so we had to destroy it because we have to put imperfections. We have to put challenges in the program. Because it's just like a game when I talk to young people about, we're all part of like player 1 and you're player 2, and we're all playing this game. And along the way, you've got challenges. So you pick your avatar, you pick your challenge level. And maybe when you really want to be in this game, you don't put your challenge level. You just go in and do the best you can. If it was all too good, we got the cheating codes and all that, that's not a game that we all want to play. I don't know any game person that says, oh, I want it easy. So life is not going to be easy. But what you do with that in that life, what you do is the empowerment. You're going to get empowerment. You're going to get rewards. You're going to get stronger. You're going to react faster, quicker, better. So, as I was saying earlier, if we created the world that we want, wouldn't we want to have a counterbalance? Couldn't Creator says, I need some volunteers. I need somebody to counterbalance. Humanity is asking for it. Who would like to volunteer? Lucifer says, I'll do it. Mankind had to invent the devil. They had to invent good and evil, right and wrong. And I grew up being Roman Catholic, so I'm quite familiar with the stories of the Bible. But I'm Anishinaabe. We didn't have the devil. We had bad spirits, good Manitous, bad Manitous. They were all part of life. Make good decisions, bad decisions. We didn't even have a concept of hell. It was brought over from the other side of the world. You had to strive to be a good human being. So we had this teaching called Ojane. When you did something wrong, say you took a life just for pleasure of a bird, you gave pain, well, misfortunes will come your way because nature has a way of trying to find balance. So you get misfortunes, bad luck comes your way, and so forth. If somebody did bad to you and you responded by being more bad than that person, it's a negative cycle. Ojane means you're both going to have to pay what you're doing to each other. So that's just saying what comes around goes around. What you put out there, you receive. So when our grandmothers say, you're in trouble, you did something wrong, misfortune came your way, they usually ask you, what did you do wrong? Like, what did you do? That's their question. Because they says, how did this come on to you? They want to explore that. Did you do something wrong? Why is this happening? So these are ancient teachings that we hung on to, versus you're a sinner. If you don't get forgiven, then you're going to go to hell. That's it for you. Now, being Roman Catholic, anybody who's Roman Catholic knows that you're sinning all the time. Basically, you got to go get yourself forgiven all the time. But ain't that tiring to think that you're never good enough, that you can't achieve to go to heaven? So these are programs that weren't ours in the first place. They only came recently, in less than 100 years, at least in my community. But it's still there. It's still there. Now, what colonization did was to take that all away, that teachings of reincarnation and empowerment and, all the things that we weren't afraid of. We weren't afraid of anything. We were strong warriors that jump into battle. Like, we weren't afraid because we were going to go home if we didn't make it that day. So this is why it was a concentrated effort by governments and with the church to create laws and create these institutions to bombard us, to taking the innocence of a child, to kill the Indian and the child. This is what reconciliation is. That's the most damage thing that took place, is brainwashing children to have shame for your ancestors, have shame for your parents. And if this went on for 2, 3, 5 generations, our people have to reconcile that spirituality. And it's still a struggle to this day. So what we have in our society, and even in our own society, is that people who are not in a good place, they have that poverty program. They have that hurt. They just want to lash out. Are going to do these things. We're all on a different level when it comes to this life. When we go back, though, we got to review everything. And what we're going to, it's not to review as a punishment, is to review the impact that we had by hurting somebody else. But also you review the impact you had by helping somebody else. And you just hope that you had more helping than you did something wrong. Because if you were, because you're reviewing, it's not a punishment. You're not going to go to hell or purgatory or anything like that. It's basically, you had a life plan, a soul contract, and you said you want to do this, and maybe went sideways, and then now you're looking at this, and guess what? That soul says, can I go back? Please, I want to go back. I got to correct this. There are more things to learn yet. So that's why you're having all the souls that are here are kind of like in a different karma. Well, it's a karma thing, but at different levels. They're here for healing. They're here to empowerment. And then that's where you end up having people in different levels in your own family, your own community, family, community, society, the world. So once again, I'll just anchor it by showing you one of the teachings from the Dakota, if you don't mind. I don't know if you put it on or I put it on. It was just a one pager, just to highlight what life is about.
Just a sec.
All right.
Can you make it full page?
I could highlight it, zoom it up.
Okay.
That. Then I just go down. Do you see that? I'm really going to read it. Does that work?
Yeah, it's on your end, so you can read it if you like.
Okay.
And then you have to scroll yourself.
Do I have to what?
You have to scroll it yourself.
Yes.
It's on your platform.
Yes.
Okay.
Count down from 3, 2, 1. Okay. Then you put live. Ready?
It's recording. Yep.
Oh, okay.
We're already recording.
All right. So we got this on the screen, and I wanted to share this with you. I just typed this out, thinking about the teaching from the Dakota Nation. I happen to be white spotted horse. I don't even know if I've introduced myself yet, but I got my spirit name. I was named by a Dakota medicine man, and he said, "I want to give you a Dakota name." And for me, I feel I grew up with horses. I live in a community surrounded by horses today. So I feel a connection to the horse nation. So this is what's called horse medicine. It represents power. It represents change.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the balanced medicine shield is this quick teaching that the true power of wisdom is found in remembering your total journey. Wisdom comes from remembering pathways you have walked in another's moccasins. Compassion, caring, teaching, loving, and sharing your gifts, talents, and abilities are gateways to power. Along the way, if your ego has gotten in the way, you may have failed to notice the lack of respect you have been receiving from others. You may, on the other hand, be struggling with others who are abusing their power. Should I say something? Should I fight my desire to put them in place? You may be asking. Remember the times in your life when you have fallen out of grace with the harmony of the Great Spirit. Then have compassion for brothers and sisters or sisters who are now doing the same. If you are overpowering another or feeling overwhelmed, horse medicine in both the dignified and the contrary positions is a simple reminder on how to balance your shields. In all pathways to have equal validity, you will see the power and glory of a unified family of humanity. This is the gift of the rainbow warrior or warriors. The I has no place in the whirling rainbow that comes from the great mystery and is replaced by the universal we. All colors of the rainbow, all pathways are honored as one. Apply this knowledge and reclaim the power that you have given away by forgetting to come from compassion. And sometimes we can be in a weak state. Untangle yourself from the present situation and understand that every human being must follow this pathway to empowerment before galloping upon the winds of destiny. And I got this is from medicine cards. So I stop sharing. I'm back to the video. You see me? Good. So I just wanted to conclude it with that teaching that life is meant to be struggles, but it's not. The Creator will never give you any struggles that overwhelms you. You can handle anything, but sometimes we feel weak. And I wanted to say I appreciate all the friends and allies that are there for me at a time when I needed the most. So I'm very appreciative of that. Miigwech.
Yeah. Wow. I'm so excited I'm coming to see you and 2 weeks because you're reading that, and I'm like, wow, that really, it resonated. That medicine resonated because the last little while I've been in that space of, well, anger, frustration, some, catching myself speaking in a way that doesn't honor who I am, knowing that, there are things happening out there, and it's difficult to do sometimes the work that I'm doing, and sometimes, like, I feel for myself that speaking about it helps me get it out, and some people don't want to listen to it. I can't, there's certain things I can't speak to my husband about because, he'll say, I don't want to hear that anymore. Or, even people that are involved in situations, to speak to them, they're like, I don't want to be in the middle of it. And so how do you really, for me, learning how to put that somewhere without actually having to speak about it, to give it energy is a challenging part, because it's still trauma work. Things come up, and it's like, how do you really manage this type of a relationship that is, it's not reciprocal, but you're in it. And, so, and the work that I've been doing with Grandmother's Voice has been amazing work. Healing, obviously, has been a big part of it. Learning, building relationships, but it's everything that you just said. I needed to hear this message, and I appreciate that very much. It's real.
Yeah, Jody, I know how it is to feel not only vulnerable, but to feel lonely, isolated. We go through that. I went through that. It was just today I felt like I got through the foggy mindedness of it. Like, I feel great today, but it's just like you went in a cloud. You're just not really aware that you have assets, you have friends. Sometimes we just want to be alone, which is okay too, till we get our strength again.
Yeah, I could totally, again, make this into a session about me. I think that there's a lot of transformation happening. And what I'm super grateful for is my relationships with other healers that are standing and staying in the conversation and staying in the relationship, and not putting it, whatever, not forcing it, but just being there and knowing that, maybe sharing their own experiences, or just being there. So I really super grateful that we have you and others that continue to share the knowledge, transfer the knowledge, that these perspectives, that have been here, I think, waiting for this time to be shared with people, so that we can actually create the new world, and a healthy world, and to know that we're not alone. We all have these experiences.
I'll share with you one vision I had 3 weeks ago. It was a keyhole. Just if you did a black and white picture of a keyhole, you draw it out, right? You draw it out, and that's the white. That's like the white, and then surrounding the white is a larger, looks darkness, like black. And it feels that way sometimes. It feels like we're surrounded, no matter how much we're trying to hang on, we got to hang in there to be that light, that little keyhole. But I backed away. It was just a small part of a door. Door was white. And we have to remind ourselves. We're like,
I love that.
Love is the number. Love is the overall. Love is the medicine. And we just have to look back and see it for what it is. this darkness, this surrounding, this engulfing us is, if you focus on that, you can't help but to be drawn in. So
Mhm.
we as light workers, we do a lot of healing. We have to protect ourselves because we're dealing with people's energy, their heaviness, we don't want to absorb it. We don't want to take it on. And this is where I like to get Eleanor to jump in because she is a healer. She does body works, and we're talking about protecting oneself when we do that work.
Oh, and you mentioned like we have a very similar philosophy, I believe, Alan. And I'm not sure it's a very common philosophy. It's more of a spiritual perspective of why we're here and that we're here by choice, not that we're a fluke of biology. And I wanted to mention, for anybody who's interested in this kind of a philosophy, I got a lot out of the book Journey of Souls by a Dr. Michael Newton. I found that to be very helpful. And it felt aligned. That I went to, United Church. I wasn't in the Roman Catholic, but in United Church, like I just wasn't getting the answers that felt aligned, and more of the spiritual perspective definitely resonates with me. For anybody who's listening who might be interested in more information about that concept and energy, like I'm still learning. I think every master is ever a student, and depending on like I hear Jody's perspective too about trauma, and we talk about light workers, but I also understand that there's shadow work as well. And I don't think shadow work means that you're like delving into Satanism by any means, but that like what we think of is in our mind and what we're aware of is maybe 10% is what is conscious. And then so much is in our unconscious. And this is where our trauma lives, in our tissue, in our body. And that like massage and body work is like, because I feel like tension and trauma, I refer to as column A, that this is where that there's fear. Your nervous system is reacting from a fight, flight, freeze, fawn perspective. And this is where scarcity comes from. They're always trying to be protective, and but it puts you kind of in your head. You're not really present in your body, in the present moment and in this flow with creator and the universe, as you put it. And then column B this is more, in my philosophy, this is where there's love, there's more expansion, there's trust, there's flow, there's abundance, there's the sense of connection. And it's not an either or. I think it's really a spectrum of humanity healing and reconciling and coming together. But in protecting ourselves, like you say, you had a psychic attack. And I mean, philosophically speaking, I understand that. I don't have any personal experience with that, although I did work with a woman on Saturday who said that she was the victim of another woman who attacked her psychically. And in my philosophy, again, karma, what goes around comes around times 3, that how do you shield yourself from that sort of an attack? And it's not something I've had to deal with that I'm aware of. But also recognizing that, I mean, we can pick up other energy from other people, like in our ego, as you mentioned in that document. I think even the topic of ego is a whole topic in and of itself, and how our nervous system protects ourselves in the different roles and the different different personalities that will come out to protect us. But I suppose your specific question was, how do I protect myself? And the white light, as you mentioned, is a visual that I practice daily. I come into my heart space and I consciously cultivate an open heart with love and gratitude. And in my experience, that has, like, I was very much like on my healing path when I was more in column A. I was anxious was an energy that I think a lot of people these days that can relate to. Is this fear of the future, of not knowing what's going to happen, and am I good enough, and am I going to have enough? And it's a very contracted energy in that column A, as I was mentioning, whereas I feel that gratitude, the more that I consciously cultivate love and compassion and gratitude for myself, that it opens up, it creates space, and I feel more in the flow. So gratitude is a big part of my process. And the more that I love myself, the more that I expand my energy field, the more that I can perceive of when other people are projecting at me. that, because I feel like shame, as you mentioned, is a huge energy that we're dealing with on this planet and this culture, and shame makes us easier to control. It makes us afraid that I'm not enough, I'm bad, I'm wrong. And I think religion had a huge part to play in that cultural control over millennia. And it's a really low, dense, dark energy shame that we have to each individually go on our own journey and recognize what that emotion of shame feels like. Because for me, I can relate that it's like it was just normal. Like I couldn't even put my finger on it until the pandemic and the universe showed me, and I started to recognize. But even these darker energies, they're trying to protect us. Like it's a strategy of our nervous system to keep us small, to keep our head down. Because historically, if you put your head up and said, "Oh, I'm challenging this narrative," then your head gets chopped off. So shame is a way for us to stay small and to have a form of control. And we're talking about, power dynamics here and the darkness, that I do believe that there is a purpose to the duality of the darkness, and still learning. Like I find these conversations so juicy, and how can we expand this? Because so often we just take the narrative for granted, that this is the way it is, and that I'm going to dig my heels in, and my perspective is the only perspective that's right, because that tends to be what religion does. And it's control. So really, I suppose, over just in conclusion here, that there's this power over power under dynamic of control, and then like the victim mentality tends to come up. It's just another reflection of ego. But really, ultimately, what we're learning is to heal that, because we've all been victimized in one way, shape, or form, I would suggest, and to also recognize that it's not our fault that we've been victimized, but part of our psyche will latch on to that I'm a victim. And then we start to suck energy from other people and that victim energy. And I would suggest that this person that you said that psychically attacked you is that mentality of envy or resentment, that they're just trying to get energy from you because they don't know how to generate that energy for themselves. So that as we learn to heal, and we learn to heal these power over power under dynamics within our own body, our own tissue, our own nervous system, that we can ultimately learn to become power with and be more in flow in the column B, as my intuition guides me. So I hope that answers your question. So you mentioned, so the white light. Also, I use water. I use the elements. I use making sure that I wash my hands, wash my arms. I offer gratitude for this energy of healing. I know I can't heal anyone. I'm a facilitator of this energy to help people see deeper and believe in themselves. Selenite is a crystal that I use as well to just cleanse my energy field. I am a fan of smudge. I guess that's an indigenous tradition, or sage, other herbs, and that smoke to cleanse my space, and offering, you said, the power of prayer. So I suppose love and gratitude in and of itself is a prayer. What other ways do you, and I'm still curious about the psychic attack, Alan, you didn't really share. I'm like, what were the symptoms of that? And how did you know that was what was going on?
Well, I knew this from spiritual people, to go and look into it, like investigators. They go and say, okay, who's doing it and why. So apparently, I'm part of a group, and it started with jealousy because they weren't invited to be part of it. But they also started seeing my work on Facebook, because I would show my lodge, I would show I'm doing all these great things, and then that just draws out envy. It just enhances their jealousy. So they would just basically, whatever they wanted to say, I want to hurt this person, which was me. I want to hurt this person. That's the attack. So the attack could be anywhere, saying I think bad things about you that could happen to you. That's why you never point at anybody. Excuse me, draw that back. Because it's like a dagger. You're setting a piercing energy
Hmm.
at that person. So you don't do that either. Shouting, like, just the power of words itself is just like creating a vibration into the universe. So if it comes from a bad intentions, it's hoping that bad things will come out of it. So that's when I say psychic attack. When people are feeling overwhelmed, people feel, oh, you know what, I'm closing in, or they feel like I'm being invaded. They're just start feeling vulnerable. They start doing things that's out of character. That's what I'm talking about. So if you're in practice with this kind of energy, and you can recognize you do your own protection. Like, for instance, you can zip her up. You can do what I do. I put a rose out. What is mine is mine. What is yours is yours. I can control that. It falls back at the end of the day. It comes back in. But it's using your chakra energies, basically flowing. Letting it flow. Don't have anything blocked. But we have our medicine bags with medicines in it, and nothing could come near it. Just like when you burn sage, no bad intent spirit can tolerate that. So if it's energy, it just can't come near it. Like, if it's bad intention energy, it just can't come near it. So that's one of our strongest protections. So we smudge our homes all the time. If you're dealing with life out there, and each family member does life out there, so you have a family of 5, you're all bringing energy in the house. All right. So in the evening, you should be smudging, you should be meditating, you should be clearing, or else it just builds up. You have sickness in the homes, it just builds up. So we smudge all the time. So those are sort of protections that we talk about. Because if you walk in a hospital and you felt pain in your rib cage, you don't say, ow, and then take it home with you saying, I must be coming down with something. You just adopted an energy that's not yours. It was somebody else's energy in a house place. But as a light worker, you're people coming with all kinds of that stuff in them. I've seen people who are not protecting themselves, and they end up developing arthritis, or they just don't like to work anymore. It's too overwhelming. Well, because they're not doing the protection on themselves. So, when you say you put things in compartments, that's your mind. That's your conscious mind is like 18%. That has programs. It's programs, right? It's programs. The 88% is your subconscious mind that stores all of everything. And that's your subconscious mind that basically we want to unload. We want to clear up, right? That's the shadow work. That's the healing. Let's clear this up, because it affects our consciousness. But the ones that says your super consciousness is spirituality, your spirit, your connection. It has no number. That's all empowering. So when I'm dealing with people who are at a stage in life, it's usually there's a core value system or a core belief or a religious core, even a religious program. So that's where religion is, which is helpful. I'm not calling down religion. I'm just saying that's where a lot of society was. That's how I grew up. But then there's that next phase of drawing, like the next one is spirituality, moving beyond the core belief systems to spirituality. You're expanding, you're opening up, you're exploring. You're saying, this is something I'm interested in. I want to know more. Then you're leading into the third. The third one is conscious, like super consciousness, a consciousness of one. I am one with everything. And then when you get to that stage, you're not judging. You're not judging others. You're just being. You're an observer. You're not a watcher. You're a watcher. You're not absorbing anymore. You're just interacting and do what you can to help others. But you now see where a lot of people can be at a bottom set, and they're exploring a little bit now. They're in like exploration, right? But in the end, they realize, hey, we all came from the same source. We're one, and we all have our journey. So anyway, I'll just want to turn it over to Jody now. Be mindful of time.
Yeah, Daniela, thank you, both of you, for sharing your wisdom. You know, I'm sure, like many listening, you know, what I hear after we do our talks and the responses from people and the comments are that thank you, it resonated. So even if it's just one person out there, we had this conversation because it came up, and it's come up. And it's come up because as a society and as a collective, as a people, as a universe, we know, the spiritual people know that we have, you know, there's a shift. We're changing, we're transcending, we're preparing for, if not already, into that new world. And so what I know from my being, how I was raised, I was very fortunate that in my life, although there was a lot of trauma and a lot of indigenous genocide, all of that, everything, my family, we lived in it. It was in my life. But what just came to me when you were speaking, Alan, was my father died very young, but I always knew he was indigenous. What he said to my mother in between, you know, him probably connecting and disconnecting with his spirit through his lifetime here, he said, please allow my children to choose their own religion and their own spirituality in their own. And my mother did that. And there were times where I would go to church with my friends, or every once in a while we would, you know, go with her friends, or my younger brother was Catholic, or we would go experience that. But I truly believe that was one of the strongest messages and gifts that my family could offer was just find your connection, find your truth. And so I was very fortunate to be on my path of spirituality at a pretty young age in my life. And so I know I'm on my path of purpose, being my purpose in this lifetime. The people that I'm surrounded with continue to be there, to move this movement, or to be a part of this movement. And I live and breathe and eat and sleep and pray for love and healing for the universe. And there are hard days where I can get caught up in this, you know, material 3-dimensional world of wanting to just spew, you know, the truth of what you feel. Because when you are in these places and this work that the three of us are in, you can do all the spiritual work that you know to protect yourself and prepare yourself. But when you are sitting beside someone who is projecting that energy, you feel that energy. When you are sitting in a room alone in your essence and in your connection to spirit, you know exactly who they are that's sending that energy to you, whether it's love or, you know, dark, or whatever it is. We know. And so my practice is every morning and every evening, I'd like you, Alan, are offering gratitude in that moment, letting go of what doesn't serve me, and just doing my best to keep a clear mind and connection to my heart and spirit, knowing that we're supposed to continue to find people like us, to share these circles, to share these messages to those of you who are listening, you know, to support you in your journey if you're feeling alone or learning, growing. So just sharing gratitude for this space and time. It was a really beautiful conversation, and being able to be grounded in it and to really absorb what I needed to hear. I feel good. I feel happy and full. And so I appreciate both of you. And to those of you who spent this time with us. Yawa, we will be taking a little bit of a rest over the rest of the month or so with Alan. We're working in the backgrounds with him to support his his vision and the work that he does. So we'll be working on his website and building more our strategy for our podcast. And there's a lot of really juicy, I love that word, Eleanor. I use that word for a lot of describing a lot of the really fun stuff that we get to do behind the scenes, and growing and building capacity and making connections so that no one is left out and no one is alone. And so, Nyawa, love to you both. Alan, I will see you soon. Eleanor, we need to get together very soon and get our photos done. And yeah. Would anyone like to share anything? There you go. Yeah.
The last message I want to say was it's good advice. Enjoy the summer. Enjoy what's going on now. Rest, retreat, meditate. But overall, just enjoy the moment. Because, we're all going to get very busy. So, haka na dana way maganap miigwech, everybody.